If you've been paying attention to the news, and that's not something I necessarily recommend you do, you'll notice that there's been an increasing number of news stories concerning diversity, equity, and inclusion programs, especially in educational institutions. You'll also notice that a large number of these stories are not very positive in terms of people's acceptance of these programs and their desire to actually see them succeed or exist at all. For instance, we can go to the state of Florida, where they have been passing a number of laws prohibiting the teaching of diversity in schools from kindergarten all the way up to higher education, as well as removing funding from schools that have diversity programs. And by no means is Florida the only one. There are many states now that have chimed in, passing their own laws or offering their own versions of these laws, prohibiting the teaching and discussion of diversity. Here's a map that shows the extent to which different states are passing laws or trying to pass laws, limiting the discussion of diversity-related topics in schools. And of course, what counts as a diversity-related topic can differ substantially. And there are examples of states prohibiting talking about certain things that in the past really weren't that controversial. And now there are even attempts to punish businesses who are in favor of diversity efforts and diversity programs. These are private businesses. These are not state-run businesses. These are not state-funded businesses. These are just businesses that are operating in certain states. There is even descriptions of diversity programs being quote-unquote corporate sanctioned racism, and the extent to which states should regulate what kinds of programs exist in private industry. Now, given the reactions and given the speeches that are being given and given the number of laws that are being passed or discussed, diversity might sound like something that's pretty awful. After all, why would there be these efforts at regulating diversity or banning diversity discussions if diversity itself wasn't something causing great harm? And why were all these states directing these efforts at trying to protect its citizens and its students from diversity? Well, I mean, this does beg the question, after all, what does diversity even mean? And how is diversity being defined if laws are being passed to protect people from it? I always like to start with the simplest definition first. And a basic definition of diversity is just having representation of people from a variety of different backgrounds, different social groups, social categories, as well as from different life experiences. And using that definition of diversity, diversity seems pretty innocuous. If it just means having different types of people, I don't know, it sounds pretty cool. Don't we want to be around different types of people to be able to learn from them? So what's the big deal? Why are so many people raising issues with embracing the value of diversity and promoting diversity? And furthermore, what is the impact of the negative portrayal of diversity on ourselves, on our education, on society, and on organizations and businesses? And also, what is driving this negative characterization of diversity? And this question is on the mind of many people. Many people are asking, why is there this negative characterization of diversity? Michael Bush, Chief Executive Officer of Great Place to Work, writes in Fortune magazine that, quote, the word diversity is being hijacked and weaponized to mean discrimination against some for the betterment of others. So to discuss diversity means to discriminate against one group of people and to elevate another group of people. It's a divisive concept that serves some and not others. And as a result, diversity has become a kind of rallying cry to create an us versus them mentality, rather than a we mentality. And too often, when one of them get an opportunity, it's seen as taking an opportunity from one of us. This idea of a zero-sum game, where when one person or one group benefits, it comes at the expense of another group who has to lose. And it's in this characterization of diversity as us versus them that drives a lot of the negative reaction to the concept of diversity. We care about diversity because having diverse influences is vital for social progress. It's vital for creativity and innovation, arts and culture evolution, and other positive social, personal, economic outcomes. Diversity fuels creation of new products, of new ideas, of new approaches, of new possibilities. Because when people from diverse backgrounds come together, they can enrich each other through their interaction, communication, and cooperation. More importantly, all of these outcomes can benefit all of us, the we, and not just benefit us or them. Diversity is an opportunity for growth because it enriches what already exists by allowing for people of different backgrounds, experiences, knowledge bases to share with one another and create new possibilities. When I'm teaching classes on diversity, when I'm doing consulting work on diversity, if anybody's hostile to the idea of diversity, I just ask them if they're in favor of everyone being the same. If you're against diversity, then you must be in favor of homogeneity, of everyone should be exactly the same to one another. And usually when I ask this question, they will say, of course not. Of course, I'm not in favor of everyone being exactly the same. And so if they're not in favor of everyone being exactly the same, it must mean that they are in favor of some level of diversity. So what is it about how they understand diversity that is creating their resistance? What do they think it means? And how can we reconceptualize it to mean something else? On this point and to further discussions of diversity in organizations, Michael Bush adds the following recommendations, quote, if the word diversity is uncomfortable for you to use because you know it provides comfort to some and fear within others, I would acknowledge to your people why it makes you uncomfortable. Then state what you believe in, including how different beliefs, experiences, skills, and personalities are needed to drive innovation. As a person and as a social scientist who studies language, I know that the meanings of words are a combination of their historical meaning and contemporary social construction. They both exist in history and exist in the cultural and social moment. When definitions and meaning wildly diverge from different people, it's incredibly hard, if not impossible, to have a shared understanding and collaboration around those concepts. If we can't agree on a shared meaning, then it's hard to get us to work together around that concept. As a result of all of this, to further discussions on the importance of diversity and to get people on board with these efforts, we need to start by helping others understand the basic definition of diversity, to have people come together to construct a shared meaning of diversity, how it's not about us and them, it's about all of us together, it's about we, and how diversity is not about some people, but it's about all people. We need to talk about the positive outcomes that are achievable from embracing diversity and show historically across human civilization what has emerged as a result of diversity. And that in the end, these positive outcomes are not to benefit some people, but to benefit all people. And to help deal directly with the fears that the word diversity might have in some, acknowledge those fears, and to do serious work to assuage those fears, reduce that anxiety, and to help people see the possibilities in diversity.